everyone. Today, I will introduce a story about a rich version of a beautiful woman cloned into multiple versions for anyone to play with. The story begins with wealthy Henry in his luxury car, accompanied by a beautiful young woman, Elizabeth. Soon, they arrive at Henry's super villa in the mountains. In this large villa, besides the newly arrived Henry and Elizabeth, there are only the blind butler and the female assistant Claire. Don't be fooled by Henry's age. He is quite gentle with girls. He not only carried Elizabeth into the house, but also immediately told her that countless treasures and cash in the house are all hers. But Henry harbors a little secret. He doesn't allow Elizabeth to enter the mysterious room behind that old blue door. After a night of spring romance, Henry went to work, leaving Elizabeth alone at home. Although the villa is large and rich in materials, this is limited to the villa, and many clothes and jewelry can become boring over time. Curiosity is inherent to humanity, so Elizabeth ignored the warning and opened the blue door. Upon entering the room, Elizabeth discovered it was a laboratory, where she found a woman who looked just like her. Elizabeth was terrified and hurriedly escaped. The next day, Henry returned home and saw Elizabeth in a panic, knowing she must have crossed a forbidden zone. By nightfall, the dapper old gentleman was gone, replaced by the fierce old Henry. Henry wielded a large machete and quickly killed Elizabeth. The next day, the butler and his female assistant calmly helped Henry bury Elizabeth. Their indifference towards the murder suggests that killings are a common occurrence here. A month later, Henry arrived at the villa with a beautiful woman in a luxury car, and surprisingly, she looked just like the previous Elizabeth. She's also an Elizabeth. What is going on? Could it be that Elizabeth has a twin sister? And this Elizabeth's experience is the same as the previous Elizabeth. The same care, the same warnings, the same curiosity, the same fright. However, when Henry tried to kill him, he was unexpectedly killed by Elizabeth instead. Elizabeth realized she had killed someone and tried to escape using Henry's fingerprints, but it didn't work. She considered calling the police, but as a murderer, that would be self-incriminating. So, she changed into clean clothes, hid the body, and pretended nothing happened. Not long after, the female assistant suddenly had a heart attack, so the butler quickly called an ambulance. After the female assistant was rescued, the butler found Elizabeth, saying he knew about her good deed but could keep her secret. Then, they cremated Henry's body, making him disappear. Elizabeth was finally safe. Then the butler told Elizabeth that she is a clone, and she is the fifth one. Elizabeth learned the truth, first shocked, then heartbroken. It turns out I was just a toy created by others. Soon, Henry's friend, a police officer, came to visit and probe. Seeing Elizabeth about to slip up, the butler shot and killed the officer from behind. This blind man's shooting is pretty accurate. I really don't know how he does it. The butler said he could help Elizabeth escape, but she needs to read Henry's diary to him. Through their diaries, they learned that Elizabeth was originally Henry's wife. She passed away from a serious illness. Henry then asked his female assistant to help clone her 7 times. However, the first clone wakes up with no memory of Henry. Although Henry is very sad, he has a new idea: to clone a younger version of himself and start over with Elizabeth. Young Henry was actually the butler, and when old Henry saw the butler in a hot romance with young Elizabeth, he couldn't take it anymore, so he blinded the butler and ultimately cloned Elizabeth into 6 versions for his own amusement. Although she knows the truth, Elizabeth doesn't plan to compromise with the butler. She only seeks to seduce him for the password. The method worked. Elizabeth obtained the password and tied up the butler, just as she was about to escape. The confused Elizabeth 6 woke up. She picked up a shotgun and shot Elizabeth 5 and the butler. In the end, she left the villa alone. Perhaps she could start a new life. Having money doesn't mean you can treat women carelessly. It's just that retribution hasn't come yet. The tragic Henry, for his own selfish desires, caused the deaths of so many. See you next in the film.